All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever really stopped to think about a dollar bill? When you're holding this little piece of paper, what do you actually have? Is it just ink and paper? A string of numbers? Or is it something a whole lot more?
I mean, think about it. We've built entire civilizations on these things. Our whole lives are structured around getting them, saving them, spending them, and it's all because we collectively believe they have value. That belief, that's everything.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Money isn't a thing, it's an idea. It's this social contract, a shared story that we all agree to tell each other. And for thousands of years, we've been trying to figure out the best way to write that story.
But what happens when that story starts to fall apart? What happens when we stop trusting the contract? Well, we're living in a time where the very foundation of that trust is shifting, and the next chapter is being written right now as we speak.
So, to really get where we're going, we have to look at where we've been. Let's rewind the clock and start with our first attempt at creating a universal language for value. You know, in the beginning, it was just pure chaos. Barter. Imagine trying to trade your chickens for a new spear, but the spear maker doesn't want chickens. It was a total mess, super inefficient. So, we got a little smarter and moved to commodity money. Things that everyone agreed had some value, like shells or furs. Better, but still not great. They could rot, they were hard to carry around, and then we found gold. Ah, gold. It was rare, it was shiny, it didn't rust, and you could chop it into tiny pieces. For thousands of years, it was the universal code for wealth.
But let's be honest, lugging around bags of gold coins isn't exactly convenient, especially when trade started going global. This problem led to the next massive leap in our story, the great detachment of value from the physical object itself.
And this is where things get really clever. The first paper money wasn't actually money at all. It was just a claim check, a receipt. You'd hand over this piece of paper, and it was a promise that you could redeem it for a real physical amount of gold sitting safely in a vault. This was the famous gold standard, and it made trust feel absolute. The paper was just a handy shortcut for the real deal. And then, it happened. On a Sunday night in 1971, that unbreakable promise was broken. President Nixon got on TV and, facing enormous economic pressure, just cut the cord. He announced that the US dollar would no longer be convertible into gold. It was a seismic shock that fundamentally changed money forever.
Just like that, in a single moment, the claim check was gone. The paper in your wallet was suddenly no longer backed by anything tangible in a vault. It was now backed only by a promise from the US government, a pure IOU.
And that created the system that we all live in today, fiat currency. The name literally comes from the Latin for "let it be done." Its value exists simply because a government says it does. That's it. It is a system built 100% on our collective faith in those institutions.
Okay, so what happens when that faith, that fragile trust, completely shatters? Well, history gives us some pretty terrifying examples. And every time trust breaks down, it creates the perfect conditions for a new code, a new idea to emerge.
Just look at this number, 79.6 billion%. That was the monthly rate of hyperinflation in Zimbabwe back in 2008. The number is so absurd, it's almost impossible to comprehend. It's what happens when faith in a currency doesn't just die, it evaporates. Prices were literally doubling every 24 hours. This quote just hits you in the gut. We saw this in 1920s Germany and again in Zimbabwe. When hyperinflation takes hold, money becomes so worthless that it's literally more useful as fuel. People were burning stacks of cash to stay warm because it was cheaper than buying firewood. The symbol of value had become trash.
And this isn't just a story about far-off countries. In 2008, the entire world stared into the abyss. This wasn't just about a currency. It was a crisis of trust in the whole banking system. Giants like Lehman Brothers, institutions that seemed permanent, vanished overnight. And then government stepped in and bailed out the banks with our money, which for millions of people was the final straw.
And right then, in the middle of all that chaos and anger, something incredible happened. In October of 2008, an anonymous person or group sent a 9-page paper to a small cryptography mailing list. It was a blueprint, born directly from the failures of the system. The paper was titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And the idea was nothing short of revolutionary. A new kind of money that didn't need a bank, didn't need a government, the rules were transparent, enforced by computer code.
Trust was no longer placed in human promises, but in the cold, hard logic of mathematics and a shared public ledger called the blockchain.
And that, right there, set the stage for the massive battle of ideas that we are living through right now. It's a fundamental showdown between two completely different visions for the future of money and who gets to control it.
Just look at the comparison here. The two systems are polar opposites. With fiat money like the dollar, trust is placed in institutions, supply is potentially infinite, and control is centralized. With Bitcoin, trust is in the code, the supply is strictly finite, there will only ever be 21 million, and control is decentralized across a global network. Now, governments and central banks see this challenge, and they are not just sitting on the sidelines. They're fighting back with their own version, central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. China's already deep into testing its digital yuan. The EU is working on a digital euro. This is the establishment's play to adopt the new tech while keeping all the control. And this leaves all of us with a massive choice. It's a serious trade-off. On one side, you have CBDCs. The promise is incredible convenience and state-backed security. But the price? The potential for total surveillance. A world where every single purchase you make can be tracked, traced, and even controlled. On the other side is decentralized finance. The promise there is total financial freedom, being your own bank. But the price for that is total personal responsibility. You lose your keys, you forget your password, your money is just gone. Forever. There's no one to call for help. So here we are. We've gone from trading shells on a beach to gold coins, from paper promises to mathematical code running on a global network. Every step of that journey wasn't really about the object or the technology itself. It was about what we, as a society, chose to believe in. The future of money is being decided right now, and the real question is, what will we choose to trust next? People or code?